medicine to help to bring them out of it if they've been in it for too long. And so that's important. It really is. I know sometimes we don't want it because we don't want people to pick on our babies. We don't. But here's the thing. Sometimes people will pick on children whether they have epilepsy or not. Our thing is to protect our child when we are away from them and they are in the school setting, to make sure that they have everything that they need so that they can get the help that they need while we are away from them, trusting them to these educators, right? To the teachers and the principals and everyone else. And so I did a lot of that advocacy and a lot of research, and I found all types of articles, and I was even sending these articles to the CEO of the administrative portion of the organization as well. It didn't matter to me. It didn't matter. I'll put it that way. It didn't matter. I wanted everyone to know, not just my child, but protect these children. The next thing that started to happen was that there were other children who had never been diagnosed with epilepsy before who started having seizures while they were on this learning tool. Did that learning tool play a part? I don't know. Was there some underlying factor with the flicker rate and all of these? I don't know. But I do know that the teachers needed to be aware. And so regretfully, I was told that some of the teachers left the classroom. They ran out. And so listen, I what can I say? I can't get mad about it in a way. I can't get mad about it because you have a child and you've never seen this happen to them before. And all of a sudden, they're on the floor. They're moving in a way, or they're non-responsive. They're not responding. And so, yes, that could cause someone to say, I got to go get help. I have to leave. What is happening? And to go into that fight or flight mode to try to get help when they feel like they don't know what to do. What I'm here to say to you is, why wouldn't you want to know what to do when you can? Why should we wait until that child, a family member, someone else actually has a seizure before we decide that we need to learn what to do if there is an emergency? As an educator, I feel like it's an educator's responsibility to learn about this, because the same way that we can learn about allergies and EpiPens and asthma pumps, we need to learn about epilepsy as well. It is important. I don't want you to be left out there, wondering what to do, feeling like you're in shock, feeling like you're hopeless because maybe it is the child's first seizure in the school setting. And you are the one who's responsible to try to help this child because they cannot help themselves. And there are things that you need to know how to do. You need to know how to move quickly and swiftly to move the items away from that child so that if they are having a grand mal, a tonic-clonic, something where they're moving, where their head is moving up and down, you've got to move quickly. You have to put something underneath their head that's soft, grab a jacket, anything, so that their head doesn't keep banging on the ground. You need to place them on their side. What if you just had lunch? You need to know, and it's nothing to scare you, it's to prepare you. It's not to scare, it's to prepare. Can we all say that? It's not to scare, it's to prepare. That is why I am here. It's not to scare you. It's here to help you. And I'm doing it in a different way, and we all, this is my way. This is how I do it, right? I come on here and it's not a perfect podcast and I don't have music playing in the background or anything right now. I may at another time. I didn't have a jingle in the beginning. I could have written my own and sang it for you, but I didn't. But I'm here because I care. Because I want to get the information out here. Because I saw and I heard how it affected some of the teachers who were not prepared. prepared. Instead, they were scared. And as a parent, does fear ever try to come and grip us and try to say, this is, I don't know if they're going to, all this foolishness? Of course it does. But we have the responsibility as much as we can to say, no, I'm going to fight for my child. And I know that there are parents whose children have transitioned and they're not here with us any longer. And I grieve. I'm saddened for them as well, but they still have a voice. You know, it's the thing that we go through that sometimes is the most traumatic thing in our lives, the thing that kind of, ruffles the placid waters of our lives. That's usually the very thing that we are passionate about, the very thing that we have lived through that some people have not lived through, that we get to talk about and say, listen, I'm giving a voice to this story. I'm talking about it. I'm not hiding it in the shadows. This is what I've gone through. This is what my child has gone through. Hopefully it will help so that someone else doesn't have to go through it the same way. That's why I'm talking to you. And let me write my little quote down. It's not to scare you. It's to prepare you. Yes. Because I care. That's why. So, I have had an educator say to my daughter, and this was hard. He asked her after I guess he didn't know that she was diagnosed with epilepsy. And I want to say this. That's not the point. We won't say, because you have epilepsy. Oh, I'm sorry I was mean and I said that. No, sir. You shouldn't have said it. And so I have to forgive him, right? Yeah, I had to have a talk with him too. But I'm not the one who usually will go and be like, although I could, but I didn't. But I did talk to him. And so it's hard, educators, when a child is once again struggling to do their very best and you don't know that child, right? So this was when she went up to 3rd grade. They didn't really know her yet. And believe that each child in a certain community is supposed to be spoken to a certain way. She doesn't need all of that, not my child. And if she did, then use the training that you received. But she didn't. And so for a teacher to come out and say to a child, you don't know how to read in front of a bunch of children. And then what are these transition meetings for? So I strongly encourage you, if you have transition meetings, to transition the information. Don't hold it. Don't tell the parent that don't worry, we're going to take care of it. Everything's going to be passed on. But don't pass the information. And so her 504 was not passed when she went to the 3rd grade, which means she was not being pulled out. She was not being given extra time to take her tests. All of those things, which I know was hard for her. It was hard for her. And so use your transition meetings. Yeah, I know, right? I almost can hear like a teacher saying, yes, but we have to deal with this person and this child, and that child has this and that. Yes, but the child never asked to have those problems, illnesses, disabilities. They didn't ask for it. And believe you me, if they could stop doing some of the things that they're doing, they actually would. I believe they would. I believe they want to. That child who's walking all around the classroom and can't sit still. And I want to say this, it's not your responsibility, educator, either, to blame it on the parent. That's not what you're there for. You're there to do your job, which is to educate, which is to partner, which is to take the time out, as busy as you are, and I get it, and parent-teacher, to actually set aside that time to listen to that parent, because you may see that child for 8 hours of the day, but that parent has that child and is up at night sometimes with that child when you're asleep. And the child sometimes, children, will show, they'll be respectful and everything in the classroom. But when they get home, they'll let their parents have it because it's a safe space. See, it's like this. If they're being bullied, they're not going to go and fight the bully 9 times out of 10. There are some that will. But if it's a shy child, if it's a quiet child, if it's a child who's dealing with an illness, they just want to get the work done, usually. And so if they're being bullied by other students, which does happen, and it's the school's responsibility to, if you say it's a bully-free zone, make it one. And don't make excuses either. Don't say, oh, that wasn't being bullied, when you know darn well it is. Don't do that. Help to fix it. Help to make it better. I know you have a lot of other things on your plate, but these are children. And so the things that happen to them now, like in it influences their future greatly. And so I've heard all kinds of things. I mean, I worked in the administration portion of, it was like we were in the school office, but we weren't with the school. It was more of parent engagement. So I loved, I was a parent and I was also an employee. And so I got to see things from 2 different sides. And I had a really great perspective about things because of that. And so it's that partnership that needs to happen. We need to protect the children as much as we possibly can. I believe that parents need to take time out to understand exactly. So what I did was I ended up volunteering at her school. But it was amazing to me because, like, having one teacher in a classroom without an assistant should not happen for too long. It just shouldn't. Teacher's aide, it should not. It's wonderful if parents can volunteer. But I found myself trying to volunteer to help out with the other children who were doing things. And my daughter needed one-on-one with me. And so there was that day when she was having and the teacher said to me, I'll never forget it. I said, how's she doing? This was one day. And she said, this was before I started to volunteer there. She says, oh, she's doing fine, but, sometimes she just stares off. I don't know what that is. And I said, well, you do know she was diagnosed with epilepsy. Oh my gosh, and she just packed up. She was kind of in shock. And so that's when I found out that in that transition meeting, they had not transitioned the information. Yeah. And so, and believe me, I'm not saying anything taken away from that school. I'm saying that these things, just need to pay attention to these things. They're important. With all of the other things you have to do, I'd like to add something else on there, but it is important to add it on. And so there I was, and then I started to volunteer, and when I saw her having this, and I saw her trying to work so hard, oh my gosh, I saw her really trying to concentrate. She even, almost everyone else had finished, and, it was like, go ahead, baby, go back over, go up to, they were moving on to the next thing. How do you think a child feels when people are moving on and they're still trying to do their best? Their best is not any other child's best. It is their best. We were all created with a different DNA. It's different. It's not the same. We don't all take tests the same. We don't talk the same. We don't walk the same. God never intended for us to do things the same way, or else he would have just put some flour on a baking sheet and cut it out with the cookie cutter, and we all would have been the same. That's not how he made it. We all have other circumstances that we deal with in life, right? um, in our social